Hello, everyone, and welcome to the October APQC Knowledge Management webinar. Our topic today is the Great Retirement Crisis, Safeguarding Knowledge Amid the Boomer Exodus. I'm Lynda Braksiek, and I'm the Principal Research Lead for Knowledge Management here at APQC. And today I'm joined by our guest, Evan Siegel, who's the Vice President of Business Development at eGain Corporation. So eGain recently sponsored this research project with us, and we're excited to share with you today some of the findings and our insights, especially around this critical challenge of knowledge loss. And we're going to share some practical ways you can begin to address some of these challenges. So welcome, Evan, and thank you to eGain for your partnership. Now, before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a link to both the presentation and the recording afterward. The materials will also be available in our resource library at apqc.org, and a summary of today's discussion will be published for APQC members in about 4 to 6 weeks' time. Any names and questions, things in the chat, or examples that are provided by you will be anonymized when we publish the summary. Feel free to use the chat throughout the webinar for any questions, comments, or use the Q&A feature. We're also going to have a couple of polls throughout as well to get some of your participation. So before we dig into the content, I'm going to turn it over to Evan for a brief introduction of eGain.
Hi, Lynda, and hi, everyone. And before I talk about eGain, let me just quickly give you a little background about myself, because it'll inform some of my comments. So I'm the Vice President of Business Development at eGain, and I came out of industry. So like a lot of you, I've sort of have scars on my back from trying to improve operational metrics. My background is 16 years prior to eGain at Wells Fargo in two roles, a customer experience strategy team, and then the longer period on the leadership team of the 10,000 person contact center, where I was tasked with improving AHT and FCR and other key metrics. We would get 1 or 2% improvements and learn subsequently that they were just seasonal. And I figured I better find a better way. I researched technology, came across knowledge management, recognized this is the future, and actually retired from Wells Fargo and joined eGain. And now I help my colleagues in industry sort of move to the promised land. So a little bit more about eGain and what we do. So we are the top-rated knowledge management platform for customer experience, customer service. It's not just eGain that says that. KM World, which is the known trade publication and expert in the knowledge management space, has awarded us multiple awards the last several years. And Gartner, across a number of market guides and assessments, keeps rating us #1 in knowledge management. And they also have a peer review where vetted and verified customers review software, and we consistently score top in our category at a score point of 4.9 out of 5 from our customers. Global brands trust us. You can recognize many of the brands in here, and industries where we typically do best, although we have clients across almost every industry. The industries where we do best are large, complex, and regulated industries where compliance is a real issue, and where getting a wrong answer, not having trusted answers, is a big risk. Those people understand the value of an AI knowledge hub. So the problem we solve is basically we get the right answer to the right person at the right time. And in the age of AI, we also solve common problems that make AI not work. And those common problems, the trifecta, as I like to call them, of gaps in your knowledge base, outdated information, and inconsistencies. And, it's a classic issue of garbage in, garbage out. If you have those in your knowledge base, and most people have multiple silos of knowledge, so inherently they have it. So we solve that problem. Gartner recognizes that if you don't have a modern knowledge management solution, your AI initiative, your AI for customer experience initiative will fail. Last year, they said it was 100%. This year, they're saying in the coming years, 60% of initiatives will fail. So we really provide critical infrastructure for those companies that are trying to get the most out of AI. And let's face it, every company driven by the C-suite wants to get the most out of AI. So how do we do that? We provide trusted answers driven from an AI knowledge hub that really becomes the single source of truth across an enterprise. We automatically out of the box plug into the silos that most organizations have, CRM solutions, CCaaS, SharePoint, etc. And then we provide a wide range of capabilities, many powered by AI, where we create and curate knowledge, make it that single source of truth, provide capabilities to walk people through step by step via process guidance, easy searchability, instant answers that are summarized, quick summaries of key process guidance that might cut across multiple knowledge articles. And then we publish it to the right person at the right time in the right channel. And finally, we have really great analytics and dashboards because, as you all know, keeping your knowledge up to date is an ongoing exercise. And so we make it really easy to do that. And when you have that type of solution, you get the types of results that you see on this page. And I like to say that if in my leadership role at the Wells Fargo Contact Center, if I had gotten, let's say, a 15% improvement in handle time, 32% increase in first contact resolution, 45% of queries resolved via conversational self-service, I'm pretty sure I would have been CEO by now, because these are the types of results that dramatically transform a customer service organization. So Lynda, back to you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for all that information, Evan. I think you guys are gonna see today as we walk through this agenda that we're gonna offer some insights from the research. We're gonna offer some practical application and approaches from APQC's history of knowledge management research, as well as Evan's examples from his organization. So hopefully you get a lot out of today. But we're gonna be covering today really how to capture and transfer that knowledge from retirees. We're going to talk about then ways to leverage AI to transfer that expertise, what it takes to prepare the workforce for AI and how to measure the impact of some of these efforts. And then we'll end with a little call to action. So what are those steps you can take to get started and really look at addressing that risk of knowledge loss in your organization? And as always, at the end of the webinar, we're going to share some APQC resources with you based on today's topic to give you more research data and tools and templates to back it up. But we'll also highlight some upcoming opportunities from both us at APQC as well as eGain. They have some cool things coming up as well. So we're going to get started. And I'm going to start today with a little scenario just to kind of get our minds in the right place. So picture a typical day in your organization's most experienced department. Maybe it's finance, maybe it's engineering, supply chain, customer service, whatever that is. The room's filled with people who know how things really work. Long tenured experts who can troubleshoot issues, mentor new people, and remember why certain decisions were made 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Now imagine that half of them quietly log off for the last time. No formal handoff, no documentation of their insights, and no transfer of the lessons they've learned through decades of experience. The rest of the team is left with questions no one can answer and processes that no one fully understands. Does any of this sound familiar or has it happened? Unfortunately, this is not a hypothetical situation, and it's a tangible risk that a lot of organizations are looking at, with more than half of their workforce over the age of 55 planning to leave or retire in the next 5 years. So this threatens not only the tacit knowledge, the stuff that's behind our eyes and between our ears, but also the explicit, the things that are written down. Who wrote them? Who are the authors? Who owns the content? Particularly in industries like healthcare, manufacturing, construction, utilities, things like that. Baby boomers, those people born between 1946 and 64, are really driving this shift. And members of this generation not only make up a lot of the leadership positions, but they also tend to have the extensive expertise and institutional memory that's valuable to our organizations. But they won't be part of the workforce forever or that much longer in a lot of cases. So research from the Retirement Income Institute actually shows that more than 11,000 Americans will turn 65 every day from 2024 to 2027. That is about 4.1 million people per year reaching retirement age. So this is why eGain came to APQC and partnered with us to do this research on the Great Retirement Challenge. And we want to talk to you about what it means to knowledge management programs. And our research was actually focused on a global survey of 1,000 organizations. So I just wanted to lay out what we're going to be talking about today and see how you all feel about it. So with that, I'm going to ask you how you feel about it. What is your organization doing today? So this is our first poll. How concerned is your organization about knowledge loss due to retirement in the next 5 years? We'll take a quick pulse at how you're feeling about it before we move on. I always like to understand where our audience is at and see if you align to what some of our research is telling us already from our survey. And yes, to answer, somebody put, do we have a link to the research? We do. We have links throughout this entire presentation on a lot of the slides with the actual data. But at the end, there's also a chart with a lot of resources related to this research and other things that we're going to talk about today. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, do we have a good number for the poll, Lauren? Oh, wow. So concern at the organizational level, mission critical is only 12%. Strongly concerned though, 36%. That's good. Moderate means we're paying attention a little bit, not at all concerned. So those folks that are here today and feel that their organizations aren't at all concerned, or even just a little bit, let's hope we get some insights to you today that will help you take some things back to your organization that can be practically applied. So let's get started with some of our research. As I mentioned in my a little opening statement, over 50% of the workforce is looking at retiring or could retire in the next 5 years. And I doubt anyone's surprised by this. If you are, put something in the chat. But I also want to let you know this isn't really just about head count either. This is about the knowledge in these people's heads and the knowledge in the things that they've written down over the years, their expertise in processes and policies and procedures. So as we dig a little bit deeper, you're going to begin to see the urgency of this situation if you don't already. So it is surprising to some people, it looks like. Okay. All right, so the knowledge loss concern, that was the average number we showed you, but we're going to talk a little bit about the different roles within organizations and how they're perceiving the risk of knowledge loss. So the concern is widespread, which I think is a good thing to recognize it, but it's especially pronounced at the top of the organization. You can see board members and C-suite are above that 50% mark. And then the urgency tapers down a little bit as we move through the organizational hierarchy. Only about 28% of individual contributors actually see this as a level of concern. Probably not surprising. They're not as close maybe to the broader strategies and the risks that might be associated with some of those knowledge retention things. But what this data tells us is that leadership is actually sounding the alarm. The fact that we got so much response for the survey, and we got it very quickly, which means people are thinking about it. And the way they answered the questions, they're paying attention, and it poses a real threat to keeping continuity in your organization, innovation, managing the performance, and the preservation of your knowledge for the future. But it also highlights for us as KM people the need to work cross-functionally, both up and across the organization, to make sure that everyone's on the same page so we can build resilient knowledge systems for the future. So looking at the people who are actually doing some knowledge capture in the organization, it's not very many. I don't know if this is surprising to you or not, but this really reveals a critical gap in how organizations are responding to this retirement wave, with only 8% actually capturing it consistently from departing retirees. That leaves 92% of people not doing anything consistently or having a reliable process. We have on the other side of this, we have 16% that never attempt to do anything. And then we've got a few in between, about a quarter of each of these. Some do it rarely. Some do it only about half of the time, maybe depending on the situation. And almost a quarter actually do it most of the time, but only when they perceive it to be the most critical in the organization. So I think what this tells us is that organizations are leaving a lot of valuable know-how on the table when they allow folks to walk out the door without doing something about it. So what we really want to do is try to help you move from ad hoc efforts to more systematic efforts of knowledge capture and transfer. Now, for those people who are actually doing something, it's clear that the manual methods are still very dominant in how we get things done. The most common approach is people-to-people expertise transfer, things like communities, mentoring, job shadowing. Another very large percentage, 62, are actually manually documenting knowledge, putting them in systems, but still manually documenting them. And then almost half are using some structured methods like maybe some elicitation interviews or doing surveys to gather and then store knowledge based on people's expertise. So these methods can be very effective. We talk about a lot of these methods at APQC as great ways to capture knowledge, but they're also very resource intensive and also sometimes very inconsistent. Of these people who are doing something, so far only 21% are actually leveraging AI and automation to help do this for them in a more efficient manner. Things like mining conversations or extracting those key insights from experts. So this presents a major opportunity for AI capabilities to really help you scale and streamline some of those knowledge capture and transfer capabilities. So when you think about the future of KM, it's really worth asking the question, how can we balance the human-centered approaches with the technology-enabled solutions and make our lives and our employees' lives a lot easier and, preserve that knowledge for the future of your organization? Now, with that, we talked about the challenge or the types of transfer activities, but with that comes challenges as well. And this slide really highlights the top challenges that emerged from our research. So even when they recognize the importance of capturing and transferring knowledge, they still say they face significant barriers. And not surprising, the top barrier is not enough time, right? People are busy. They look at it as extra work and they go do other more priority things. Almost half actually say they don't have the resources to do it. So it could be staffing, maybe budget they need, or tools they need to purchase or upgrade. A little over a third of people actually say it's just not a priority in our organization, right? So that tells us where there's a strategic gap really in thinking about how important this really is to the organization and how can we help position that as a higher priority. There are other barriers in there as well that we probably all think about. The culture maybe doesn't support it. Maybe we don't have the right technology. Maybe there's no awareness that it's even a problem. So we need to keep all of these things in mind. These challenges, they are real, but they can be addressed with some sound knowledge management strategies and capabilities and technologies that are aligned with your business priorities and supported by your leadership. So with that, giving you a little bit of background of some of the data and what we saw from the people who took our survey, I'm going to turn it over to Evan and let him give you a little example of how they're helping people solve some of these problems in their organizations.
Yeah, and it's a perfect setup, Lynda, the research findings, because what you just reported back was, there's a lot of people-to-people knowledge transfer. Organizations don't have the time or the resources to do that, as you would expect. And so I'm here to tell you there's a much better way. As I mentioned in the overview, when I described eGain's AI Knowledge Hub, we've baked AI into both the creation and curation part, as well as the getting trusted answers to the team members. And so here, what I'm going to show you is that AI generated knowledge creation. So picture taking one of these baby boomers who's got a lot of tribal expertise. One of the problems they face is what we call the white paper problem. I don't know where to begin to document all that I know. Well, what I'm going to show you here is an AI-powered solution where all you need to do is, and why don't you go ahead and click the arrow, play the video, is all you need to do is put down what's the subject that you want to be write about, what are the key points that you want to get across, and then what the eGain AI knowledge authoring capability will do is it will generate a best practice knowledge article that aligns with the tone and voice of your brand, that has a subheading where a subheading should be, a table where a table should be, so that it's easily consumable, because consumability and knowledge is critical. If people can't understand what they're reading, there's no real point in having it out there. And then the next thing that happens after this draft is created, eGain is very big on believing that you need to have an expert in the loop. AI, is great, but you still need to have an expert in the loop. What comes after this, built into the software, is workflow where other subject matter experts will have access to this. They'll review it, they'll edit it, they'll add comments, as well as compliance and legal. And out of that process, you then get a fully vetted new knowledge article or policy and procedure that documents what that expert had in their head. And hopefully you'll take away from this, that's a pretty painless process for the baby boomer with all that tribal knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole nother approach that we help our organizations take, and that is to fill the knowledge gaps in real time. So what you're seeing here is an agent's desktop where they were searching for some policy or procedure, and it's noting that based on the context that, hey, there's probably something, you're not finding what you need. And so what the team member can do is, first of all, their first priority would be to answer the customer's question. They'll likely tap their neighbor, their supervisor, maybe that tribal knowledge expert, to get the answer that they need. And then go to the next page. What they'll do is we have a process baked into the software where the agent can create the article, pre-populated templates based on that context. And then, like I described with the video, after the agent who's gotten the information they need to answer the customer's question, after they complete the article that their teammates and colleagues can use, then of course we have that important workflow where the experts are in the loop to edit, review, and sign off on that new knowledge article. So you're not waiting for the folks to retire, you're filling those gaps in real time using eGain's modern knowledge management solution.
Cool. Thanks, Evan.
And just to clarify, I saw one question pop in there. This is an example where the humans are filling in the gap, not the AI. The previous example with the video is where the AI creates a good, solid first draft. I saw that question pop up.
Yeah, great question and good answer. And it leads us right into that topic of how do we dig deeper into actually figuring out how to do more transferring of expertise in this age of AI. And Evan said the key word, sometimes it's AI that gets us started, and then you bring the human in the loop, right, to validate things. So we're going to dig a little deeper. So looking at just a couple more pieces of research today too, the benefits. Now, the benefits started out being a little bit more generic when we first started with generative AI three years ago now, I think it is. But now they're getting a little bit deeper and they're starting to dig down a little bit with really what companies want. So here, this actually highlights the most important benefits that organizations are hoping to achieve. And I would say some of the people that answered this are probably already achieving some of these things if they have AI implemented. So the top of the list is all about reducing cycle time, making us faster, right? How can we accelerate getting knowledge captured, organized, and delivered, and then make it more accessible where it's needed, when it's needed? But we also, high up there is better decision making, right? Having AI help you surface relevant insights and connect people to those trusted answers. And remember that key, trusted answer. You're going to hear that a lot today. Now, some of the other benefits people expect to see, things like streamlining processes, improving that customer experience, both internal and external, saving money, of course, improving your content management approaches, and maybe community engagement. So all of these areas are really where AI can help knowledge management teams, especially, scale their impact and improve your organization's overall efficiencies, make that operational efficiency better. And what this tells us is that AI isn't just a technical upgrade. As we said, the human's in the loop. It's a strategic enabler for faster, smarter, and more connected knowledge work. Now, I think Evan's going to show us another example of how an organization benefited from some AI solutions.
Yeah, this is a real world client example. We actually have from our customer conferences over multiple years, executives from this European telco on stage quoting these statistics. And for anyone that's interested, we can send those videos. But the situation is this was a leading European telco. They have a cell phone is a big part of their business. And they were suffering from four knowledge silos. Agents didn't trust the knowledge, poor handle time, trends headed in the right direction. And if you think about it, we all have cell phones. It's a difficult business. You have hand unit issues or phone issues. You have billing issues. You have complexity of all the plans and what are the plans that the people are on. And so what this client did is they implemented us, and it's a large scale implementation. 19 million customers, 10,000 agents in the contact center, and they use it in the retail store as well. So it's an omni-channel solution. And you can see on the boxes, and this is over a number of years, but just really jaw-dropping results. 30-point improvement in net promoter score. And again, for any of you like I have tried to improve net promoter score, it's a high bar, just the way the methodology is. So 30-point improvement is just stellar. And they did that while also reducing costs. So a 37% improvement in first contact resolution. And then because the knowledge solution has trusted answers, it has process guidance where it'll walk the agents or the retail employees through the steps for some of those complicated technical issues with people's hand units. They're able to reduce the training because think of it as just-in-time training. And so, all contact centers have high turnover environments. Here, this client's able to train their agents twice as fast, huge cost savings. And then a more subtle metric is what's the time to full agent competency? And what we mean by that is when are the agents performing like the wily veterans and really having their best metrics. And here, what this client found with the modern knowledge management solution, easy searchability, AI-enabled answers, et cetera, those new agents get to full agent competency twice as fast. And so, as you can well imagine, this translates to millions and millions of dollars of savings and is that holy grail of improving customer service with the Net Promoter Score while also reducing costs.
That's awesome. I feel like you just touched on like every one of the benefits almost that we just talked about on the previous slide, Evan, with that example. So what a great example. And, the benefits we're looking for and we're starting to see are fantastic. But unfortunately, people are still seeing some of those barriers. And so this is one of those questions that we asked in our survey. And I said the word trust was going to come up a lot, and that was the number one top barrier that was talked about in the survey or was answered in the survey, with almost half the people saying they just might not be correct. We don't trust them. So this really reflects those concerns around the accuracy, the reliability, and the consequences then of taking action on those incorrect answers, right? So this is, again, at the top of our list, something that all of us who are working in in any sort of AI solution have to be thinking about this, building better trusted sources for people. And again, that requires the human in the loop, right? So other barriers that are out there, obviously things about data privacy and security, regulatory issues, even unclear use cases and an absence of a clear strategy. We heard a lot of that at the beginning of this AI bubble was my company wants to do it and they don't really know why. They just want a new tool. So make sure you understand what are those clear use cases that bring the best business value to your company and make sure you have a strategy for that. Now, this actually, all of these kinds of high level barriers that we talked about at the top of this list are really looking at that broader issue that organizations are really still trying to figure out how to integrate AI responsibly and effectively for the purpose of sharing knowledge, capturing it, transferring it across the organization. But there's also some practical challenges too. Things like skill gaps, right? We might not have the right skills that we need yet to do this. We might have budget constraints that we haven't considered. We got to make some consumption choices around the organization. And we might have some cultural resistance to change. People might still be afraid of it. Although I think I'm seeing a lot of people really excited about it and they want to move on these kinds of activities as well. So it kind of depends on your organization. But overall, going forward, organizations really need to build that trust, like we talked about, into those AI systems, make sure they have clear business cases, Invest in the people that you're asking to do these things as well, and the processes and the governance and the support that's needed to make sure that this is successful. Now, one of the things that APQC loves to talk about, and if you know us, this isn't surprising to you, but effective knowledge management systems really do begin with strong content management. And that means managing the full life cycle of your content. And this is even more important now that we have AI. It might look different, you can maybe do it faster, but it's still important to do it. And according to our research, knowledge management programs that actually standardize a life cycle of managing their content actually see a 33% more likely to deliver increased business value for their organizations. So this stuff is real, it works. So this is just a reminder for you that you need to think about how to manage that life cycle in your organization. On the left of this screen, these are some of the foundational practices that support good content governance. These are the things that we call above the flow, the things maybe the knowledge management team or content owners are working on. Things like who owns the information and who's responsible for maintaining it. What does that approval cycle look like? How do you build triggers and timelines in to make sure data is staying fresh, right? And then how do you monitor and enforce these standards so that you keep things consistent throughout your organization and making sure that then that information is usable and again, trusted across the organization. The right side of this screen represents kind of the way to think about the life cycle as it relates to when we're doing our jobs. So this is a little bit more in the flow. When I'm working, right, I'm a knowledge worker. How do I know, how do I identify what's important for me? How do I plan it? How do I create it? How do I actually acquire the content I need to do my job? Then how do I make sure that it's valid? How does it get enhanced and branded and reviewed to ensure that quality? And then how is it delivered? Where can I find it? Where is it published? Is it approved? Is there access control that needs to take place? And then finally, one of the most important things is to be able to use it, right? You've got to be able to use it. If you can't find and use the information and knowledge that's out there, it's no good to any of us. We really get value out of knowledge management when we see the reuse of existing knowledge put in similar or new situations to create more innovation and keep it moving throughout the organization. So this life cycle really helps organizations treat their content and information as a strategic asset. And therefore, your knowledge is a strategic asset, right? So let's make sure it's managed well and that it's done from the creation all the way through the retirement of the information. It's good to get old stuff out of the system as well, so it's not clouding it up. So now we have AI, and it's helping us to manage this differently, more automated wise, but more effectively. But it's still critical, as even Evan mentioned before, garbage in, garbage out, right? So we need to think about managing our content still in a way that's going to enhance our AI solutions as we move forward in the future. So, and I think Evan has his final.
Yeah, and Linda, before you jump to my case study, wait, stay on that page for one
Yeah.
sec. I just want to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
I love this page because you're sort of laying out the markers of what makes for great knowledge management processes. And I'm here to tell the audience that every one of these eGain has built into the software in an automated way. So for instance, every bit of knowledge has basically a freshness date that's set by the authors as to when it needs to be reviewed. There's feedback. Was the article helpful? Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs down by the users. And a recent one, which is one of my favorites that we have, AI powered, basically a knowledge health score that's constantly scanning the knowledge base and looking for things like where are there broken links? Because that nothing frustrates a user. I can speak from personal experience than finding the article and the key nugget is in the link and that doesn't work. To that knowledge health score also scans for inconsistencies among the knowledge. Where is one policy or procedure saying do steps A, B, C, and another policy and procedure on the same topic says take steps X, Y, Z. And that's deadly in the age of AI because what the AI could do is say, well, the proper policy steps are A, Y, B, right? Mixing and matching those inconsistencies. So we have a scan that'll identify all those. And now if you go to the next page, I want to go back to, you had mentioned, the reason people are sort of wary of AI is they don't trust the answers. That was your number one score, sort of 2 pages back. So I want to talk to eGain's methodology that we do with our clients to ensure that the knowledge is top-notch and doesn't have any of the trifecta of problems of gaps, inconsistencies, and outdated information. So we work, a good case study is with a ESB Networks. It's the largest Irish utility. And like almost all of our clients before we implemented, they had rigid tools, multiple silos of knowledge, agents didn't trust it, and all their key metrics were headed in the wrong direction. So what we did is, and this is kind of a revolutionary approach. When we showed up to implement, we didn't look at the knowledge they had. We looked at, well, what's the knowledge the agents need? In any organization, in any function, the 80-20 rule always applies. So here at this utility, the 20% of the policies and procedures answered 80% of the queries that customers and team members were gathering or having. So what we did is we collected thousands of conversations, email exchanges, etc., fed it through an AI analysis loop, and documented in the greatest detail. The client said they'd never seen such detail on what are the issues that the folks are having. What are and oftentimes there's main issues and associated sub-issues. We came back with all that detail. And then what we did, using tools like I showed you in that short video, used AI to create a new knowledge base. And the part that I work at the company, it still blows my mind. We did all that in 5 days, created the key knowledge base from scratch, aligning with best practices in the tone and brand of ESB Networks. And we did that in 5 days. And now the results that they're seeing are in the key KPIs that matter. So we created the knowledge base 10 times faster. That's what they told us, and they could have done it the old way. Now their team members are seeing a 6x improvement in search results, meaning they're finding the guidance they need. And of course, once you have a good knowledge base, you're going to get, like we showed the last client success, higher FCR and improved CSAT. Now, there's another sort of instance where you can sort of transform your business, and that is with a modern knowledge management system. With including process guidance, you can change the way you train your team members. You can go to a just-in-time training model. So in the table to the left-hand side, what we commonly see, whether it's in a contact center, field service organizations, IT help desks, typically what organizations will have if they don't have a modern AI knowledge hub is lengthy onboarding processes that involve many weeks, lots of training, and lots of memorization. And we all know training has a short half-life. In fact, Training Institute came out with a study that said 30 days after a new team member goes through training, they will have forgotten 98% of the material in that training module. But with a modern knowledge management solution, what you can do is you can have real-time guided flows. You don't need to teach the team members about what to do when there's an address change or a password reset. They get fed that information step by step. And so if you go to the next page, a case study of a client who did this and the results that they saw. It's a global benefits administrator here in North America. And what they had was 200, they support companies in over 200 countries and territories. So it's a very complex, benefits are very complex. So it's a complex situation that their contact center agents are handling. And what they did was their training had been 12 weeks long, and the agents didn't start taking calls until the last week. And so as you can imagine, that moment was big. They were so nervous, it had been built up for 12 weeks, and they had forgotten a lot of the material that they learned in weeks 1 and 2 because they weren't applying it. It was sort of all academic until the moment they started taking these first calls. With the eGain knowledge management system, they had 2 big breakthroughs that dramatically improved their results. The first big breakthrough was they shortened the training class, 25% reduction in training time because the training that's needed for processes is delivered just in time. The other big change was they started taking calls in week 1. because the agents had the security blanket of the great knowledge management system, easy access to the information, and the step-by-step guidance. So it transformed the way they do it. And then what we heard from the client is, we're here to talk about the sort of the great retirement, baby boomers retiring. You have to backfill those folks. You have to recruit the best talent that's out there. And what this company, this client is seeing is that they talk about the great tools that they give their employees as part of the recruiting process. And the recruits recognize it and they will sign up with this company because they like the support and great tools. And that's sort of reflected in the comments on the right-hand side.
Nice. Love it. Love the examples. And, I'm going to speak a little bit as we think about integrating AI capabilities into our knowledge management activities, especially to help us address what we're talking about today, right? That risk of knowledge loss with the baby boomer retirements. It's really important to recognize that the role of human experts is evolving. The people that we're trying to preserve the knowledge of and the people we're trying to make sure are prepared for the future. So AI doesn't replace expertise, it amplifies it. And I like that word because I think it can make us better, faster, more innovative, things like that. But experts do play a critical role in making sure that our AI systems are effective, most importantly, trustworthy and valuable for the organization. So here's just some ways to think about as you work with, if you're in a knowledge management team, especially, or even an IT team, and you're working with experts in the organization, think about the ways that you can help your experts become more valuable in this AI implementation era. First, they can train the machines. They can help feed these systems with the high quality and the domain specific knowledge to make sure that it is relevant and accurate. Second, they're there to evaluate the AI outputs, right? They're there to validate the results. They're the experts. They know if it's wrong or if it's missing something or if it's mixed results or hallucinated, whatever that is. And they're there to ensure that those insights are generated for contextual reasons, appropriate for the situation, and are going to be the best value add for someone who's looking for that information. It's really important. They can also help enrich the content. They can add nuances and more clarity and depth that AI alone might actually miss. And finally, they can innovate thinking. So experts can use AI as a catalyst to explore new ideas and solve more complex problems, push the boundaries where they might not have thought was possible before. So AI is a tool, but it's the expertise behind the tool that really determines how successful it's going to be. So help your experts and yourself leverage AI. And we had a great speaker at our conference last year that talked about using AI as your teammate, as your partner, as your collaboration person, right? Work with it, make it smarter, and let it help you then become more efficient and innovative as well. So with that, I'm going to go to our second and last poll of our webinar today. And I want to hear from you to what extent your organization is leveraging AI for knowledge capture and transfer right now. I'd love to hear if anybody's doing it. And if you do use it extensively, or at least have started to, or even piloting it, I would love for you to throw something in the chat about how you might be doing that. Maybe you already had a more manual program and now you're just turning it into an automated program. Maybe you're finally paying attention to knowledge transfer and capture and you're using AI to get started. Just curious, if you have any additional comments, please throw them in the chat. We love to add that to the commentary of our summary that we provide. Video. And someone put a comment that said AI, there's a lot of protected information that they deal with, so AI does make them nervous.
So can I just comment on that one, Lynda, just real quick?
Absolutely. I was
So,
just going to
yeah.
say, Evan might want to address that.
Well, the cousin of that is compliance. So I came out of the banking industry, and as in health and many other regulated industries, a lot of times there are in policies and procedures scripts that have to be read verbatim, or else you get in trouble with the regulatory bodies. And so again, we have literally hundreds of best practices baked into the software. So in that case, the people that own the knowledge authors can highlight certain groups of text in policies and procedures and say
Hmm.
this must be read verbatim in when read to customers. And so then it prohibits the AI from generatively altering that. And so it's a great
Hmm.
example of
It
keeping
is.
an organization compliance using a best practice baked into a knowledge management solution.
I like that. That was a great example, Evan. Hopefully that helps. I think it was no, it was, I'm not sure. I lost it in the chat. There's so much chat going on. It's amazing. So, okay. So the poll results, just to get back to this really quickly, is that to some extent and extensively is pretty small still, Evan. Getting some of the small extent out there, but quite a few still not using it at all, or one person is even unsure if they're using it in their organization. So again, that just opens up that door for the opportunity. Some organizations are moving a little bit slower. They might be in the compliance space, or they're worried about some of the regulatory, or maybe it's cost, maybe it's all those barriers we talked about. But we're still seeing it. It's a little bit of a slow roll to be used extensively for knowledge transfer purposes. So hopefully today is helping you all think about maybe how to approach this a little differently in your organization.
And Lynda, I'm
So
just going to add a comment to
yeah,
that as well. I
go right
mean,
ahead. Go right ahead.
as a leader of business development, I talk to a lot of companies. We're the first, my team and I are the first point of contact for folks who are exploring knowledge management. And I would say 80% of the companies we talk to had a pilot, some sort of AI driven pilot, but underneath it was multiple silos of knowledge, and the pilot failed. And so then the organization scrambles, gosh, what do we do next? And the reason it failed is because it didn't have a single source of trusted knowledge. And that's why they're ringing the phone. But I think that's why a lot of these folks are not seeing AI rolled out broadly in their organization, because a lot of times people think just bolting on that agentic layer is magic and it'll solve the problems. But if you don't have that knowledge, single source of truth, it fails, and then the organizations are stuck.
And that is such a great point. And honestly, it kind of segues right into what we're going to talk about as we get ready to close out our webinar today. And that is really how to prepare for AI, and then how to look to measure the effectiveness once you do actually have it in place. And when we asked people to tell us, what are you actually doing to help employees transition to the future? Now, we talked about a lot of the capabilities within the tools and knowledge transfer approaches and things like that. But how are you actually enabling your employees to be successful? And the number one thing, with 2/3 of the people said, we've got to upskill our existing workforce, right? So I think a lot of those early pilots, Evan, probably didn't have a lot of the right people knowing the right things to get them put in place. We've had a little bit more time now, so hopefully what we're focusing on is getting the skills we need. And I love that this answer is upskilling our existing workforce. Hopefully that settles a lot of people who think that AI is going to replace them, right? This is really about upskilling the existing workforce through training and, again, augmenting those experts' roles and things like that. And I think it really reflects a strong commitment to help employees, right, grow into a new way of working in the future. And with that, we also had half the people said, we've also got to apply great change management and communication strategies, right? If we don't help people through this change and help them understand why we're changing and take them along for the ride, let them know what we're doing, let them know how it's going to impact their jobs, make sure that they have support and training and all the guidance they need to be successful, it's not going to work as well either. So it's about getting that mindset shift and helping your culture adjust and making sure you have leadership support. Almost half said they're going to hire some people, right? Hire some folks that have some of these skills early on and help upskill the rest of your organization. Um, I don't know if this is scary or not, but there's 11% and of 1,000 people, that's 100 people, right, that are saying they're not planning to do anything different to help transition their employees. So hopefully you all are looking at one of these areas, and I know we've talked a lot about upskilling and change management over the last couple of years as it relates to AI. So keep that mantra. In order to get to those trusted sources of data, you've got to have people who know what they're doing. You've got to have your workforce prepared and know how their jobs are changing in the future. So please continue to do these things and invest in your workforce and the change management capabilities. And if you all remember from our knowledge management priorities this year, the number one skill set for knowledge managers to focus on is change management. And it's been that way year over year. So let's keep helping those organizations adjust to a new culture. So preparing for AI is a continuous journey. It's not a one-time event, a one and done. This is going to fundamentally change how a lot of us work in the future. So think about these things as you go forward. Make sure that you're building cross-functional capabilities that bring together the people, the processes, and the technology together for the benefits of the organization. Make sure that you're integrating systems. That means people, systems across the organization, making sure that planning is happening before technology goes into place. Like what Evan said, they put something in place that didn't work. There was no plan behind it, right? And knowledge management people and professionals really need to stay connected with all of these elements, because that partnership is essential for long-term success of the organization and for those knowledge management capabilities within that organization. And finally, as I mentioned before, invest in change management. Focus on the people. They're a big part of this equation, right? AI is there to help make them better, faster, stronger, all of those things. But you've got to be intentional, and you've got to engage people. You've got to help them learn how their jobs are changing, and you've got to be communicating throughout. So preparing for AI is not just about the tools, it's about building a resilient and adaptable organization that's really ready for what's coming next. So the other thing too, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about measures. People always ask us, well, how do we measure when we're successful? So I'm putting a little reminder out there that you need to always measure success through the lens of your business, okay? Consider which measures leaders care about. We're gonna get a lot of measures related to new tools and processes and things like that, but think about the things that matter to your organization. And there's 4 dimensions of measures in here to help you identify what might resonate with your leaders more. And all of them can be beneficial and helpful, but it takes a combination of these to really tell a great story, okay? You've got to have those counting measures, right? Those things that are how many people are doing this and how many people are using the tool, the adoption, the participation. You've got to have the cost and efficiency and quality. How good is this content that I'm finding? Is it trustworthy? You've got to have engagement, satisfaction. Do people know how to use the tools? Is it working well for them? Do they have any barriers that you can help break down? And then you've got to have those successes. You want those people out there with testimonials saying, this helped me do my job 5 times faster than what I could have done without it, right? So stories are powerful. Leaders love stories. People love stories. It helps to build credibility and momentum with major transformations like this. So just remember, it's important to measure through a business lens if you want to continue to see investment and be able to address things like this great retirement challenge. So with that, the last thing that I will say is that we have just a little call to action for you, the things for you to think about. Think about the fact that you need a roadmap. Make sure you have a roadmap that's aligned with your organization's retirement risk. Identify where knowledge is most vulnerable and prioritize those things. And apply, if you have knowledge management capabilities in place already, apply them to those highest priority areas. If not, let's build some, right? We can help you. And second, integrate AI thoughtfully. Okay, integrate it into the workflows of your business. Don't just adopt technology. Make sure it's solving the right problems and enhancing the human expertise as well. Also, prepare your organization's culture for AI. This means ensuring that you've got openness and trust and collaboration going on so that people feel empowered and supported through this entire transition. And then finally, make sure that you're assessing and measuring, right? And showing some continuous improvement with your efforts. Use some frameworks, use some benchmarks, feedback that you get from people to really evolve your practices and knowledge capture and transfer and stay ahead of these challenges. So the road ahead with all of this AI and the retirement risk and everything else, it can be challenging, but it is full of opportunity. And it's possible, but you just need to be very intentional about it. So hopefully we've given you some intentional ways to think about this today. And with that, I think we have like 6 minutes left. So if there's any Q&A in there.
Actually, Lynda, there's a couple more pages.
Oh yeah, I didn't go into I always like to do the questions and then go into the follow-on, but I can do them first. You're right. Just a reminder for everybody that we have resources at the end for you. This is where you can find, someone had asked, you have a link to the study and all the research. Whole bunch of links for you here to go check out from APQC and upcoming engagements that we have. We're going to be talking about AI with author Tom Davenport in November, so that'll be awesome, I think. And a roundtable then talking about organizational productivity in December. And then we have a couple of certification courses coming up as well. And then Evan had a couple things he wanted to share too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways. Hopefully, we piqued your interest on the power of AI and knowledge management combined. And we have a lot of ways to support your journeys and getting your organization to get up to speed. So there's summary reports and white papers around knowledge capture and retention and the silver tsunami. We have two types of AI agents that are you can run a free pilot. We have an AI agent for the contact center. Think of it as an agent assist, walks the contact center agent through exactly how to resolve customer issues, listens to the conversation, transcribes it, and then guides the agent through. We also have an AI agent for customer self-service, a very powerful way to sort of answer customer questions using AI reasoning. And then the third piece, which is very popular, is proof of concept. We call it innovation in 30 days. It takes place over a month. We take a particular use case of knowledge from your organization, build out the solution around that use case. You can even use it to do some of the things we talked about here with the tribal knowledge, use it to create some new knowledge articles and route them through the approval process. So lots of great ways to sort of build organizational momentum in a free, no obligation POC. And then the last page is for those of you that are really into knowledge management, and I know this is the audience that is, we are having our customer, and it's open to the public, conference called Solve 25. It's in Chicago, right near Chicago Airport, O'Hare. Easy to get to. It's free, no cost to register. And what you'll get if you attend is, first of all, there'll be a couple hundred knowledge experts in customer service, experts from clients and prospects, all talking about knowledge and the trends and themes going on. You'll also get a chance to walk away with your own AI agent. That's on day 2. And you'll hear our clients and some luminaries talk about the trends in knowledge management, real life case stories. Again, it's probably one of the premier knowledge management events where you can really learn best practices. You can register by going to www.egain.com/solve or just Google eGain Solve Conference.
Mm-hmm. I think the link is right here too. So when they get the presentation,
Yep.
they can go directly to the link. So awesome. Yeah, it's good. I went last year. It was a lot of fun. Some great customer stories, real life examples, and other folks from APQC that were there too. So it was a fun combination of people to talk to a bunch of knowledge managers. So maybe we can take one question before we go, since we have 2 minutes. If there's still people on, I think we still have a lot of people on. Yes. I don't know if there's the Q&A. I don't have it.
Yeah,
open.
Linda, I can hop in. There's quite a few in our Q&A, and there was a bunch that came in through the chat, but since we only have time for one, I thought this one was really interesting and maybe kind of highlights everything that you went over today. And that is, what is the impact of not running a repeatable knowledge capture and sharing process? They specifically asked if we had any research on any metrics around the cost of doing nothing, or just perhaps in your subject matter expert opinion, what's the cost of not capturing knowledge?
Yeah, we do actually have some research, and we're actually updating some of that research right now, but I can actually happily make it available. If whoever asks that question, you can send them directly to me and I can shoot that to them. But yeah, we do have some existing research on it. But if you think about the cost of not doing it, some of it becomes very just, I don't want to say obvious, but somebody leaves and you don't know what they know, you've got to build it again, right? That's cost. You've got to teach it again. That's cost. It might be done differently, which could cause impact to the customer, right? I mean, you've got a multitude of things that you're going to impact: cost and productivity, effectiveness, morale, right? It's all of those things. And I really like the way you asked that question. What does it mean when you don't do anything? And that's giving me an idea for some additional content we might want to create around this particular study as well, that these are the things that we want you to do, but what happens if you don't? But we do have some existing research that actually has some numbers in it that I'm happy to share. I just don't know them off the top of my head.
And let me just parrot on that and add to that. Just the baby boomer generation is unique. Longest tenure and
Yes.
8.4 years average at the current company. And so as this generation walks out the door, you lose two things. You lose that company expertise, and then obviously they've been at their craft for years and years, and you lose that that industry or subject matter expertise. And so the missed opportunity, you may never get that knowledge back, or it may take years, and then it shows up in KPIs like lower revenue, higher cost, poorer customer satisfaction, because that knowledge was tapped in to resolve customer questions, help customers. And if you don't have it, you're going to suffer in those KPIs.
Absolutely. And we have to figure out how to do it better, because we don't have long tenured people anymore. So we've got to get better and faster at turning around that knowledge for future generations as well. So with that, I think we could talk about this for hours at a time. It's such a great topic, but it was wonderful having everyone here today. We will take all the leftover questions that we obviously didn't get to today and things in the chat, and we will make sure that between Evan and I, we will get answers to those before we send out the email to everyone, so you can see what those answers are. So between Evan and I, we'll make sure we get the answers to those questions. You'll receive the presentation, the recording, and we just thank you very much for joining us today. And please continue to engage with us. These are great conversations, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you, Evan, for the partnership and sponsorship from eGain yet again. Appreciate it.
And thank you, Lynda. It was a great conversation. Bye-bye.
Yep.